There are two main ways to reduce the damage you receive when playing Illuvium PvP. This is one of them. You can use this augment called the Exalted Hyperendurance Matrix, and with the second effect you can gain 80 physical and energy resist. Another way is you can use the Exalted Fortification Catalyst and gain 32 grit or 32 resolve to all of your allies in a medium area. But what do these different key terms mean? Grit, resolve, physical, and energy resistance, they actually behave very, very differently. And something you might not have known is grit and resolve, no alluvials have that naturally. You have to get it through other means, whereas all alluvials actually have a set physical and energy resistance from the day that they are born and when you play them on the field. So there's a lot of different mechanics we need to talk about here, but luckily for you, I've actually developed a Google Sheet that will take all of the information, all of the basic things, and I'll show you how to use it. And it will actually give you the answer. You don't need to go through all the formulas. You don't need to whip out a calculator. I've built a calculator that will do it all for you since the formulas can get a little bit complex. So the two things we need to note are very simple. Grit and resolve is a flat damage reduction. So if you're going to receive 50 damage and you have 50 grit, you'll receive 0 damage. If you have 49 grit, you will receive 1 damage and so on. Resolve is the same thing, but for energy. It's kind of like physical and special attack in Pokemon. It's just two different kinds of damage, but there's only the two of them. You also have pure damage, but that just ignores all of this, and so we're not really going to talk about that. However, grit, resolve, and the resistances are actually calculated towards everything. This includes things like wildfire being stuck on your character, magma and it encroaching on you and dealing energy damage, as well as flish beams, since the flish doesn't actually deal 1000 damage with its beam. It deals 200 damage 6 times, or whatever it might be. And so this damage calculation actually counts for every individual instance of damage and not the overall thing, which you can imagine is quite interesting. You take the 30 grit, 30 resolve, and reduce that from a 1000 damage omega, you're bringing it down to 970. But if there's 5 instances of damage in that omega, you're reducing it by 30 every single one of those instances. And you're actually reducing it by 150, which is a significantly different number. Now, I've done some of these calculations for you as well, but if you want more, you'll have to let me know down in the description. Now, how do we get resistances and how do we get grit and resolve? There are only several ways to get grit and resolve. There are specific augments, like the one I just showed you. The Earth affinity will give grit and resolve to Earth alluvials and your entire team at different rates. And the magma pools in the game. If your alluvials are standing on top of the magma, they gain grit and resolve. As for resistances, there are specific augments, again, like the one I just showed you. The Bulwark class gives resistances to your entire team and to Bulwark alluvials specifically at a higher rate. The Aegis composite affinity, composite class, where when your Aegis units are near an ally, they will actually give part of their resistances to that ally. And the Colossus composite class will actually give resistance to all of your Colossus alluvials once you activate the synergy. So let's take a look at the calculator. Right here, you can see it's very simple. All you do with this is you enter the physical and energy damage that an attack is coming at you with, and the attack speed of that alluvial. Then, for defenses, you enter your physical, your energy resist, and your maximum health. And in the output, it will give you the damage received and time to kill. Now, what we need to remember about this is that this calculation specifically is not including things like omegas, boosts to attack speed, the way composite classes and things might interact. So if your alluvial has wildfire, you're going to be dealing more damage than I've got right here. This is a flat calculation. If your alluvial hits another alluvial over and over again, this is how much damage they're going to be doing and how long it's going to take to eliminate. Now, the other thing we need to consider is actually physical and energy damage. Okay, so here we have phosphorus. Now, its attack damage is at the top here at 91. However, okay, we hover over Arcanite, it doesn't show us anything. However, Scion units deal energy damage I believe empath units also deal energy damage, and the other three, fighter, bulwark, and rogue, deal physical damage. Okay? And so that is how it's calculated. However, for something like a phosphorus with Arcanite, it actually has Scion and fighter as a part of its composite, which means it will actually deal both. It will split the 91 two ways into physical and energy damage. And that is how I got this 46 and 46 is 91 split in two. I just rounded up for effect. Attack speed is 100, which is written right here. Attack speed for the phosphorus is right here. You can see that attack damage and attack speed. So now we come to Titanor. It's going to take a little bit to load. And what we're looking at is Titanor resisting it on the back end. And so it's got 2,389 max health. Obviously, this can change with things like synergies and stuff like that. So if you want to include that in your calculations, go ahead. And then it has 60 energy resistance and 80 physical resistance. And so I've chucked that into the calculator as well. Outside of omegas and other effects and all the rest of it, that means that for a phosphorus to take out a Titanor, it will actually take 44 seconds of it continuously just attacking at the same attack speed and all the rest of it. So a very long time. Now, if the attack speed was higher on this phosphorus, let's say it was 120, it would actually take 37 seconds. With the use of Arcanite, I think you can get it up to about 130. It would take 34 seconds, and you'll have things like omegas and stuff like that as well. But for now, it is 100 seconds. Now, what else have I built here? If we keep with the defenses of a standard Titanor, I've actually put in some really common calculations so you can see exactly what's going to happen to your Titanor if your Titanor has no other advantages. For example, if you had 3 Bulwark, its resistances would be higher, but let's just assume you don't. The Seaforest Omega with 1 projectile will actually deal 188 damage to the Titanor with that hit, with 2 projectiles 375, and if all 3 hit Titanor, it will be 563. Why this is interesting is because if Seaforest's Omega power gets higher, then these calculations will change. But this is at a standard Omega power Seaforest. When we get to Dual F, it is completely different. Dual F has lots of ticks of damage, so it behaves very differently. We can see that the base damage is 1125, but if Titanor managed to get, let's say, 50 resolve, then the base damage from Dual F would be 1,000. We bring that to 0, and we say that it got 100 energy resist. The base damage from Dual F would be 900. So these calculations are quite interesting. You need to really go through them and think them through. But Resolve will actually work slightly better for a Dual F, but way, way better for a Flish. So if we go right down to the Flish one, you can see the base is 413. If we up the Resolve to 50, it pretty much gets cut in half. Whereas if we had 0 on the Resolve and we did 100 on the energy resist, you can see the Flish is 330. It only gets cut by about 25%, even though you almost doubled your energy resist. This goes for many things. Wildfire, not toxic is the exception. Magma and Wildfire are 2 things that you will want Resolve for rather than Grit. But you don't necessarily need to mitigate that much from the Magma damage because it's not necessarily a whole lot. So if we go back to the other calcs, we've got the Dual F Omega. After it gets 1 steam after 10 seconds, it will be 1350. And after 20 seconds, it will be 1575. So you can see how quickly Dual F can ramp up against something like a Titanor. The Ramfire Omega, with a base of 469, if you have 3 Scion in a team, it'll be almost 600. And if it has, I believe, Phantom allows its Omega to crit. If its base Omega crits, it will do 703 damage. So it seems quite low. But a lot of Ramfires will run augments and other things that will boost up its Omega power quite a bit. And then there's also the Inferno dealing all that damage as well. The Umbra Omega will, at base, deal 242, with 1 steam, 295, and 2 steams, 349. These aren't really the alluvials we should be calcing for, though. If we take a look at a more squishy alluvial, let's say a Fiery, and we start having a look at these calculations, we've got 23 and 23. we can see that it's going to get a whole lot more different. You can see the Dual F is pretty much nuking it straight away. It's got 1200 health, a little fiery. Ramfire Omega and crit can do up to 900. It's basically taking out, it's going to probably crit and have a bunch of other advantages to its Omega, things like Mega Power and maybe some other boosts. The Umbra Omega is going to do 510 after only 2 steams, and that's without any bonuses from things like Harbinger, which could essentially double this number. And the Exalted Flish is going to take out your Fiery if they have 5 Scion on the board. But remember, it goes through lots of different things. So it might do 537 damage, but if it hits 5 targets, that's 2500 damage. That's where some of those really big damage numbers come. It's from the AoE, area of effect damage thing. And so it's quite interesting. Our Fiery with 1200 health is actually going to die in 16 seconds to a Phosphorus, which seems a bit surprising, but remember, Phosphorus actually gets a Mega Power over time, deals its Omega, and so on and so forth. So it's actually going to take out Fiery very, very quickly. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope you now understand how Grit, Resolve, and the resistances work. Please, I will put this in the description. Do not hesitate to use it. If there are any big Omegas and calculations you want me to add into here, it's very easy for me to add them. We can make a ginormous list. If I get 20 comments on this video, I will add every single one of those suggestions. 1 suggestion per comment. I'm not made of time. But yeah, hope you guys liked it.